Hello again, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, The Ultimate Guide to Improving Your FQHC's Bottom Line with Sage Intacct. My name is Kim Fellman, and I'll be moderating today's session. We appreciate you taking the time out of your day to join us, and today we are going to show you how Sage Intacct can be a great ERP solution for a federally qualified health center. Before we get started, I have a few housekeeping items to cover. First, today's webinar will be recorded, and we will email you the recording and the slides within 24 hours for on-demand access. And we'd love to hear from you during today's presentation. So if you have a question about anything, send it through the Q&A tab at the bottom of your control panel. We will dedicate a few minutes at the end of the presentation to answer any questions. You can send them in at any time, and we will save them for the end. Leading today's webinar is Mark Brazier. I'll go ahead and give the floor to Mark so he can properly introduce himself to you all and get us started. So over to you, Mark.
Thank you. Let me share my screen. It's good to be with you today. I look forward to sharing some of the things that Intacct can do for FQHCs. We've spent a significant amount of time studying and interviewing various CFOs and other staff with FQHCs, and so we hope today just be a brief overview, but it'd be a chance for you to see what Sage Intacct and JMT can do for you. First, let me just introduce myself. I am Mark Brazier. I'm a sales engineer at JMT. I've spent most of my adult life in nonprofits, the last 13 years as a CFO in a nonprofit. And so I know somewhat of, although every CFO and every organization is different, I know somewhat what is you're going through on your side of the table if you work in a business office or a CFO of a nonprofit. I'll tell a little bit about JMT. From the very beginning, JMT was built to help nonprofits achieve their missions. We, as a team, as a company, dedicate ourselves to serving the nonprofits. That's our only client, and that was from the beginning. Jackie Tiso is our CEO and the founder, and before she began JMT, she served as CFO and controller for numerous nonprofit organizations, and she found that oftentimes there weren't good solutions for nonprofits, and so therefore she began to launch out and to provide this consulting for them to give them the top quality, best and correct technology for their particular organization, and that's been our heart ever since she began almost 30 years ago. Your mission is our business. We have thousands of happy nonprofit clients. We pride ourselves and work very hard to have rapid and affordable implementations. Going through an implementation of new software is always a big task, and we want to make that as streamlined as possible. What you'll find at JMT is a deep nonprofit expertise. You'll find personalized service. At the same time, you'll see us partnering with world-class cutting-edge technology companies for the benefit of your organization. We have clients all over the country. In fact, around the world now. We have an office in Melbourne, Australia as well. And here in the United States, we have offices in New York, Tennessee, and in Texas. But we have clients, as you can see, all over the United States. Here's just a smattering of a few of our clients in all kinds of industries within nonprofits and all over the country. We are an independent consulting firm. That should be important to you because as an independent consulting firm, we do not sell software. That is not what we do. We are not a software publisher. We sell software. We are not a software publisher. We look for the best to serve you. Our commitment is to you. We curate only the best solutions. whatever area it might be in the back office, whether it's be accounting or planning or whatever area it might be. That is our goal, is to find the very best solutions. We assemble a perfect for you solution from our ecosystem of best-in-class partners. Our goal is to find the best in these different areas. So as you see here, JMT as the hub of this wheel, you can see nonprofit financial reporting, grant management, close management, AP automation, etc. All the various things that you deal with on a day-by-day basis. And our goal and our intent and our success has been in finding for you the best software that fits for you and for your organization. Here is an example of some of those. It's a limited example, but here's an example of the some of the softwares that we have used to make that happen. One of the best things for any potential client would be what have others said about this particular company. And for JMT, we have a number of testimonials of people who have found that we are truly a partner in their particular organization. In this particular case, at Cancer Care, the CFO, John Rugliano, said the onboarding process was really the crowning achievement. After it was done, I couldn't imagine doing it without them. We are going to come in beside you, and we're going to walk you through each of the steps, and we're going to make sure the implementation is done and done well. So let's talk particularly about FQHCs for just a few minutes. We, as I mentioned in the beginning, have spent some time, we've had FQHC clients for many years, but over the last several months, we have began to study them directly and intently to find out what it is that they need and what we need to provide to become the one-stop shop for them for their back office. And so there are some things that we have discovered. This is not comprehensive by any, exhaustive by any stretch of the imagination, but we have discovered a few things, and I want to use this kind of as our agenda for today. First of all, let me say up front, we understand that no two FQHCs are alike. One of the things we found out as we interviewed various CFOs is that they all work with the federal government. They all fall in this category of FQHC. But the fact is, each of your organization's missions are unique to you, and your particular area, your particular mission is unique to you, and we are fully aware of that. Thus, the reason a consulting firm like JMT is so valuable to you. Secondly, and this may be the biggest piece, and I'll spend time today on this one, is there are heavy reporting needs for government agencies and other stakeholders, particularly with federal government, with such things as the HRSA UDS reports. We understand that that is a very time-consuming task to pull together the various bits of data from various software to put together the reports that have to be done. And I hope by the time we finish today that you'll see that we think that we can put together a solution for you that will streamline that significantly for you and save hours, and thus save dollars, and thus allow more dollars and more energy to go into your mission rather than filling out reports for the government. We understand that it's a changing landscape in healthcare. The last few months with COVID has accentuated that even more, but it is a changing landscape. It is a challenging, it is a fast moving, it is in changing. One of the, we also, in addition to Intacct, provide software that can help in that planning, and we have found many of our clients coming to us saying we need to move quicker with our planning, quicker with our budgeting and changing of budgets, and we understand that, and we have solutions that can help you with that. We understand that many, if not most, of FQHCs have multiple locations, and in those multiple locations, they need to be able to manage all of those things. And in doing that, they need to be able to consolidate that data from the various locations, and Intacct sets prime position to be able to do that for you. Finally, we understand that there's also, in addition to financial, of which we'll spend most of our time today, Intacct is set up and can handle statistical data, and it can handle statistical data just like it handles financial data. Actually a journal entry for statistical data. And by doing that, you're able to get ratios. You're also able to put into reports the various data that needs to be provided to the federal government or other stakeholders that you might have. And so we'll look at that just briefly today. So let's start with that particular one, and then we'll go deeper into some other areas. Statistical data. The screenshot I have for you on the page is a dashboard from Intacct, set up for an FQHC. And as you can see at the top, you see these performance cards. The performance cards, this looks like a bad month. This must be December or something, some other month when people are not wanting to go to FQHCs. But the fact is, this particular dashboard shows this statistical data that can be brought into Intacct. I'm not going to go in detail today just because of time, but we can meet at another time and give you a demonstration that will show more detail. But the dashboard that you're seeing here is totally customizable. As you can see, and I'll just hit on these things briefly, you have performance cards at the top, you have reports here in the middle, you have different graphs. Also in the reports themselves, you can see these blue areas, and anytime you have blue area, and then oftentimes it's in the funds themselves, and the reason there's not blue on the actual dollar amounts is because there's additional accounts underneath each one of these blue ones that would open them up, which in turn would give you access to be able to open up and drill down into any of these areas. And so right from the dashboard, you're able to go into, which is a great feature in Intacct. But the big thing I needed to point out here was the fact that you can pull in statistical data. And as you can see here, for example, you got dental visits and then revenue per dental visit, and you're able to mix the statistical with the financial data and get the ratios and the KPIs that you need to keep an eye on to ensure success in your organization. Intacct can also handle multiple locations. As you can see here, these are the various locations that are in this particular database. And you can have entities. This is just about unlimited in how many you have. And so if you have multiple entities, these can be handled. And so you can handle vendors from the various locations. You can handle receipts and revenues and expenditures from the various locations. And then because you're able to do that, and you can do that from one location and have a top level, as you can see there, a top level that can manage each of those, but also individuals and offices within the particular entities can manage their portion of it as well. But then you're able to bring all that together for consolidation. As you can see in this particular balance sheet, you have your balance sheet accounts down the first column, the left column, and then across the top we have the various locations for this particular organization, and then a consolidation of all that information there available. And so you can pull out any portion of this and keep an eye on. And so if it's for example, if it was the Bethany location, they may not, they would only have access to their particular information, but the CFO and the central office could be able to look at all this and be able to see as a whole. And so you're able to keep an eye on these various things. Let's begin to talk about the HRSA federal reports. This is just a screenshot from the Table 8A from the UDS HRSA report. And I realize as we interviewed various staff members from a number of FQHCs, what we found was, in fact, one particular CFO said, if you can figure out how to streamline and bring this information that is needed out of the accounting system, prepared and ready to go into the HRSA report, that would be golden. That would be something that any FQHC would long to have. And so what we've done is we've created a database and we've set up chart of accounts, and we have set up dimensions. In Intacct, they use a dimensional chart of accounts with not only your GL and your departments and your funds, but also additional dimensions that you might want to add to that. And so we have began to create a reporting and a database, a chart of accounts, and a reporting system that allows you to mirror the HRSA reporting. And so I'm giving a couple examples of this today. First of all, what I'm focusing on are the financial ones for today. But as you can see here, if you're in a FQHC, this is probably familiar to you, but in this particular one, you have your financial cost, and you have your various cost centers, if you will. And then you have your accrued costs, so your cost in each one of those cost centers. And then, and I'm not showing the bottom of this report, but as you know, at the bottom of this report, they have the facility and non-clinical support services in this first accrued cost column, this A column. Then what the federal government asks you to do is allocate those facility and non-clinical support services across all of the various other cost centers, and then a total for that as well. And so this is a report you fill out, and so you're pulling this various information, you're doing calculations. And as a former CFO, and as I consult and work with various nonprofits, one of my goals in talking to CFOs in trying to serve them better is that anything that you're doing in Excel outside of your software, we need to find a solution to help you do that within your software. And so this is a prime example of that you're going to see today. So here is your HRSA report. And I may go back and forth here just a bit so you can see this, but you have your HRSA report, and then here is the report directly out of Intacct. And as you can see, you have these various cost centers down the left column, just like you saw in the previous slide. You have your accrued costs, and you can use any period you want to use for that, monthly, quarterly, set up your own periods annually. And so you have those, and here you have your facility and non-clinical cost. And there's that total there as well. And then in the next column, the middle column here, we have allocated this $63,000 into the various other cost centers. And so this is with the dynamic allocations that's built, that is a part of and can be part of Intacct. The ability is there to allocate that for you. And so what you have, if I can go back one slide, you have a mirror of the actual report that you're going to use for your HRSA Table 8A. I think that this would get us very close. I understand that the federal government is not too keen on being able to import this data into their systems, but what you have cut out is any calculations that are done outside of your software, and you're able to have this report and thus enter this report, the information directly from this. Let me take just a moment and point out some things that happens here. So you have, again, your accrued cost, and then you have your various medical departments, and then your facility and non-clinical, and you have the total amount there. And then what the system has done is allocated that, and it allocates it. It's not an allocation that is set up in advance, but it's an allocation based on these amounts right here, and so it's divided appropriately. So let me show you what it has done. So here is a journal entry that shows a portion of that. This is just a portion of it. Here is your various medical departments and the cost, and here is and this is actual allocation that is done, and here is a journal entry. And so what it has done is taken this $21,000, which originally was in facilities, and it has scattered it across the various departments right here. And again, it is not something that is done in advance, but it is something you could do each time period, whatever reporting period that you want to use, monthly, quarterly, however you want to do that. And it goes back in this particular instance and finds all the information, all the data that fell into that facility and non-clinical support services, and rolls it in there and figures the actual allocation. And so here is an example of what you may be doing on a spreadsheet right now. But what it's done is gone in with each of these departments, and these departments right here are your medical departments, and it's calculated the percentage of what is needed of each of this $21,000. And so all that work is done within Intacct. It is something that is that you can do periodically, as monthly, quarterly, as you need to do it, and provides you this particular report, which then in turn gives you the information, the data that you need for the HRSA Table 8A. Let's look at one other report before we run out of time here, and this is the HRSA 9D, which is the revenue side. So 8 is the cost centers, this is the revenue side. And so what we have here is your various funders. You recognize those, I'm sure, your Medicaid, your Medicare, your other public, self-pay, etc. And so here are the various revenues that have come in this particular month for these particular funders as a result of these funders, and the revenues come in from them. And then how much of that revenue was collected, and this is what was charged for those funders to pay. This is the amount that was collected within the month, and this also tells you the percentage of charges that were actually collected. Again, this mirrors the HRSA 9D for the federal government. It allows you to create this report, and once the report is set up, there is a significant amount of work on the front end, but what JMT is doing by focusing on FQHCs and finding solutions specifically for you is we're doing this work on the front end, and then when we come in and implement Intacct for your particular organization, your particular FQHC, those reports can be set up for you, and from day one you're getting the information that you need and you're up and running. So often with software, and we hear this time and time again, how many times I've heard this, I don't know in the few months that I've been at JMT, and that is, well, we bought software, and it may have been a year ago, 2 years ago, or maybe 10 years ago, but we bought software, and I know it can do a whole lot more than we're doing with it, but we're just not using it. At JMT, we want you to be using that to its full capacity. And this is one of the ways that we can do that, because we're going to make sure that this report sets up and works for what you're doing. We think that we have hit that with these particular reports, but there are other reports that you will need. But in these particular ones for the federal government, we'll be able to install these in the implementation, and you're up and running for those from day one with that information. Now, another piece of the puzzle that comes in here is that connection to your electronic health records. And in the connection to the electronic health records, there's one thing that Intacct does well is it plays with other softwares, as you saw the pie chart from the very beginning. And when it does that, when we say it plays well with others, it was designed for the purpose of the intent of Intacct was not to be the everything to everybody software, but to be a software that could allow you to find the best in class. So as we did our research and are continuing to do research on FQHCs, we know there are a number of electronic health record software that is being used. And so the issue then is, how can Intacct speak with that electronic health records? We understand that there are all kinds of privacy concerns. And so we know that we're not pulling personal information from that, but when that electronic health records allows, when it's able to put out exports that will give you the data that you need to create reports that we're talking about, then we can import that, and the import process for Intacct is very good. It's very flexible and will allow you to do some of the things that we're talking about today. So I hope that helps. I hope that whets your appetite for what JM can do with Intacct for your FQHC. I hope that as you struggle with reports, and maybe you're one of those who do not, but probably if you're in this particular webinar you do, then we can come along beside you with Intacct and make streamlining a regular part of your day. So, were there any questions for us today? We've got just a few minutes left.
Yep, so thank you, Mark. So we're going to open it up to questions from you all. You can submit using the Q&A button at the bottom of your control panel. You can also submit a question through the chat as well. But to get us started, well, we did have one question that came through. Can you touch on the topic of like importing from their electronic health records from the statistics point of view?
Yes, let me talk a little more. I hit on that just briefly at the end, but again, as I mentioned earlier in the session, Intacct handles statistical data just like it handles financial data, and so therefore anything that we can export from your health records, whether it be statistics or whether it be revenue pieces, financial pieces, we can bring that into Intacct and then do multiple things with it. And the import is a fairly simple process, but we can do multiple things with that. We can create statistical reports that are purely statistical, or we can create reports that are a mix or a ratio between the financial and the statistical. And so it is not a statistical software, but it handles statistical data for reporting purposes, mixed with the financial as well as standalone.
Thank you, Mark. So we don't have any other questions that have come through yet, but if you want to we can sit here and wait for a minute and see if anyone's typing.
And while we're waiting on that, here's my email on this last slide. And so feel free, if you have questions afterwards, to reach out to me. I'd be glad to answer them.
Yep, and we will, you don't feel like you need to write that down. We will email you this slideshow with, you can access his email address from your computer. Okay, so that looks like all the questions we're going to have for today, Mark. So let's just wrap this up now. So thank you all for joining JMT Consulting for this webinar today. If you'd like to see the Intacct system more in depth, we would love for you to join us on August 27th for a deep dive look into the Intacct system. We will send you a link to register for that in the follow-up email with the recording and slides. And also, Megan Mendiola, who couldn't join us today, will be following up with you all tomorrow to see your thoughts on today's presentation. So this will conclude our webinar unless you have any final words from Mark.
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you all, and I hope you have a great day.